My name is Richard, but everyone calls me Rich. I'm 68 years old, and on what should have been our 45th wedding anniversary, the day I planned to renew our vows and surprise Linda with a trip to Hawaii, I followed her to what she called her yoga class. She wasn't at yoga. She was at a coffee shop, with a man I'd never seen before. A man with a fancy car, expensive watch, and my wife's hand in his. In that moment, 45 years of trust shattered like glass. But what came next? What I discovered about where our money was going, our retirement, our future, the life I worked my entire career to build, that didn't just break my heart, it woke something up inside me. Something cold, something calculated. I'm going to tell you how my wife of 45 years betrayed me in the worst way possible, and how I used the one skill I have, the one thing she always took for granted about me, to make sure she regretted every single lie. But before I begin, please let me know in the comments, where are you watching this from? To everyone here supporting this community, thank you. Your messages keep me going. Every story I share, every comment you leave, reminds me I'm not alone. And if this is your first time here, do me a favor, like, subscribe, and hit the bell. You're not just joining a channel, you're joining a family that believes no one should suffer in silence, because what happened to me could happen to anyone. Now, let me tell you about the day I became an investor in my wife's boyfriend's business, and how neither of them saw me coming. It started on a Tuesday morning in March. I remember because it was trash day, and Linda had already left for her yoga class by the time I dragged the bins to the curb. She'd been going 3, sometimes 4 times a week lately. "I need to stay active, Rich," she'd say with that smile I'd known for 45 years. "Doctor's orders." I never questioned it. Why would I? This was Linda. My Linda. I made myself coffee, the cheap stuff from Kroger, not the fancy beans she'd started buying, and settled into my home office. After 43 years as an accountant, retirement hadn't really stuck. I still did the books for a few small businesses, kept our finances organized, helped our daughter with her taxes. Numbers were my language. They made sense when nothing else did. That morning, I was just doing routine maintenance on our retirement accounts. Nothing dramatic. Portfolio rebalancing, checking our quarterly returns, making sure we were on track for the Hawaii trip I'd been planning. 45 years of marriage deserved something special. That's when I saw it. A withdrawal. $5,000 from our main retirement fund, dated 3 weeks ago. I stared at the screen. I didn't remember authorizing that. I pulled up the previous month's statement. Another withdrawal. $10,000. My coffee went cold in my hand. I went back further. January, December, November. Each month, withdrawals. Different amounts. 7,000 here, 12,000 there, sometimes just 3. Never big enough to trigger alerts. Never round numbers that would catch my eye during a casual glance. But I wasn't casually glancing anymore. By the time I finished, I'd found 6 months of unauthorized withdrawals totaling just over $87,000. My hands were shaking. I've spent my entire adult life reading financial statements. I can spot creative accounting from 3 rooms away. I've caught embezzlement, tax fraud, all manner of financial deception in my career. But this was coming from inside my own house, from accounts I'd built with my own sweat over 43 years of work. When Linda came home that afternoon, she was glowing. Her cheeks were flushed, her hair slightly messed. From yoga, I assumed. She was wearing new athletic wear I didn't recognize. Expensive looking. "Good class?" I asked from the kitchen. "Oh, it was wonderful." She practically floated to the refrigerator. "We did this new flow sequence. I feel 20 years younger." I watched her pour herself a glass of wine. White. She'd switched from red about 6 months ago, around the same time the withdrawals started. "Linda," I said carefully, "I was looking at our retirement accounts this morning." Her hand paused just for a second on the wine glass. "Oh? There are some withdrawals I don't remember us discussing." She turned to me and her face did something I'd never seen before. It smoothed out, became almost blank. Then she laughed, this light, dismissive sound. "Oh, Rich, honey, that's just some reallocation I did. You know how volatile the market's been. I moved some funds around to better growth opportunities. I didn't want to bother you with the details." $87,000 worth of reallocation? Is that what this is about? She sipped her wine. "You don't trust me? After 45 years, you're going to interrogate me about managing our money?" The way she emphasized "our" made something twist in my stomach. "I'm not interrogating," I said quietly. "I'm asking." "Well, it sounds like interrogating." Her voice had an edge now. "I thought we were partners, Rich. I thought we trusted each other. Do you really think I'd do something to hurt us?" And there it was. The flip. Suddenly, I was the bad guy. I was the one being unreasonable. I was the one breaking trust by daring to ask questions. "No," I heard myself say. "No, of course not. I'm sorry, I should have asked before assuming." She smiled then, came over and kissed my cheek. "It's okay. I know you're a worrier. That's what makes you such a good accountant. But you can relax with me. I've got this handled." She walked away, taking her wine to the living room. I stood in the kitchen, feeling ashamed of myself. But that night, I couldn't sleep. Linda was beside me, breathing softly, probably dreaming of yoga flows and wine with friends. And I stared at the ceiling, replaying the conversation. The way her hand had paused on the wine glass. The way her face had gone blank before the laugh. The way she'd flipped the script so smoothly, so effortlessly, that I'd apologized for asking about my own money. I've been an accountant for 43 years. I know what evasion looks like. I know what deflection sounds like. And I know that her explanation was bullshit. At 2:47 a.m., according to the alarm clock, I made a decision. I would check one more time, pull the detailed records, track every withdrawal to its destination. Not because I didn't trust my wife, but because the numbers don't lie. And something in those numbers was screaming at me. Thursday morning, I told Linda I was going to Home Depot. She barely looked up from her phone. Don't forget we need more of those garbage bags, the good ones." "I'll remember," I said, grabbing my keys. Instead, I drove to the end of our street and waited. At 9:47 a.m., Linda's silver Honda backed out of our driveway. I followed her. I'm not proud of this. In 45 years of marriage, I'd never followed my wife anywhere. I'd never checked her phone, read her emails, questioned her whereabouts beyond normal conversation. I believed in trust. I believed in her. But $87,000 had bought me a lot of doubt. She drove past the yoga studio. Didn't even slow down. My chest tightened. She continued through downtown Worthington, past the library where she volunteered on Tuesdays, past the community center. She was driving with purpose, like she knew exactly where she was going. She parked on a tree-lined street in front of a place called Maddox and Reed's Artisan Coffee House. Upscale. The kind of place that charges $8 for coffee and calls it a handcrafted experience. We'd never been there together, not once in 45 years. I parked 3 cars back and watched. Linda sat in her car for a moment, checking her makeup in the visor mirror, fixing her hair. She was wearing a yellow scarf I'd never seen before. Bright, cheerful, young. Linda hadn't worn yellow in years. Said it washed her out. She got out of the car and walked inside like she owned the place. I waited 5 minutes. Then I crossed the street. Through the large front windows I could see them. Linda sat at a corner table with a man I'd never seen before. He was younger than me, maybe mid-50s, with salt and pepper hair styled in that deliberately messy way that probably required expensive product. Good suit, Rolex watch, the kind of watch I'd looked at in magazines but never let myself buy because we were saving for retirement. He was smiling at her. She was radiant. I watched her laugh at something he said. That full-body laugh, the one where she touched her collarbone and leaned forward. The laugh I used to inspire, back when we were young and I was more than just reliable Rich who did the taxes. The man reached across the table and took her hand. She let him. Then he leaned in, casual, comfortable, like he'd done it 1,000 times, and kissed her cheek. She closed her eyes when he did it, just for a moment, like she was savoring it. And that yellow scarf, that goddamn yellow scarf bright against her neck like a declaration. I stood there on the sidewalk for what must have been 10 minutes. People walked past me. A woman with a stroller. A jogger. Life moving forward while mine stopped dead. I should have burst in there. Should have made a scene. Confronted them both. That's what happens in movies. But I'm not a movie character. I'm a 68-year-old accountant from suburban Ohio. And what I felt wasn't rage. It was something colder. Something that counted every second they smiled at each other. Every time they touched. Every laugh. 45 years. 2 children. A granddaughter. Countless dinners, arguments, reconciliations, quiet mornings, and loud holidays. Years of building a life, brick by brick, dollar by dollar. And she was here. With him. Wearing yellow. I got back in my car and waited. They stayed for 2 hours and 17 minutes. I counted. When they finally left, they walked to separate cars. But before they parted, he pulled her close. A real kiss this time. Not on the cheek. Her hands came up to his chest, not pushing away but holding on. She drove home. I waited 15 minutes, then followed. When I got home, Linda was in the kitchen making a salad. Humming. That yellow scarf was gone. Probably stuffed in her purse or hidden in the car. "Did you get the garbage bags?" she asked without turning around. "Forgot," I said. "I'll go back tomorrow." "Rich." She sighed like I was a child. "I specifically asked you." I said I'll go back tomorrow. Something in my voice made her turn around. She looked at me. Really looked, for the first time in what felt like months. "Are you okay? You look pale." "I'm fine," I said, "just tired." She studied me for another moment, then shrugged. "Well, don't stay up too late tonight. You know how you get when you don't sleep." She went back to her salad. The conversation was over. I walked to my office and closed the door. Then I sat at my desk and did what I do best. I opened my laptop and started searching. Private investigators in Columbus, Ohio, because I couldn't trust my own eyes anymore. I needed proof. I needed documentation. I needed to know exactly what I was dealing with before I decided what to do about it. The numbers don't lie, but neither do photographs. I called the first investigator with 5-star reviews, a man named Troy Cassidy. His voicemail picked up, gruff voice, straight to business. "Leave your name and number. I'll call back within 24 hours. "My name is Richard Walsh," I said quietly, "and I need to know everything about my wife." I hung up and stared at the wall. On my desk was a framed photo from our wedding day. Linda in white, me in a rented tux, both of us impossibly young and stupid and in love. We looked so happy. I turned the frame face down, and I waited for Troy Cassidy to call me back. 7 days later, Troy Cassidy called me at 3:14 p.m. on a Thursday. "Mr. Walsh, I've got what you asked for. You want to meet in person or should I email the report?" "In person," I said immediately. I didn't want this anywhere near my computer, my house, anywhere Linda might find it. We met at a Panera Bread 30 minutes away. Neutral territory. Troy was exactly what I expected. Mid-40s, ex-cop probably, wearing a plain gray polo and jeans. He carried a manila envelope like it was radioactive. "Before I give you this," he said, sitting across from me, "you need to understand something. Once you read it, you can't unread it. Whatever you're imagining, it's probably worse. Just give it to me." He slid the envelope across the table. I opened it right there. Didn't wait, didn't go to my car for privacy. I needed to know. The first page was a summary. Bullet points. Troy's handwriting in the margins. Notes, timestamps, observations. Subject, Linda Marie Walsh, age 67. Secondary subject, Derek Anthony Maddox, age 52. Duration of surveillance, 7 days. Duration of suspected relationship, approximately 11 months, 11 months. My coffee cup shook in my hand. I kept reading. Derek Maddox, divorced twice. 3 children from the first marriage, minimal contact. Second wife left him after 4 years, citing financial irresponsibility and serial infidelity in court documents. Employment history. A trail of failed businesses. A boutique gym that folded after 18 months. A craft brewery that never got past the planning stage. A luxury car detailing service that went bankrupt. Current venture, Finn's Gourmet Revolution. A revolutionary farm-to-street dining experience. Food trucks, fancy sandwiches, artisanal bullshit. Status, seeking investors. My stomach dropped. I flipped to the next page. Financial records, or what Troy could access publicly. LLC registration for Finn's Gourmet Revolution, filed 9 months ago. Initial investment, $340,000. The number burned on the page. $340,000. That wasn't $87,000 in unauthorized withdrawals. That was 4 times what I'd found. That was... I did the math automatically, helplessly. That was nearly half our retirement savings. The page blurred. I flipped to the photographs. Linda and Derek at Maddox and Reed's coffee house. Multiple dates, different outfits. That yellow scarf appearing in 3 different photos. Linda and Derek at a hotel parking lot. The Marriott on Polaris Parkway. Her car visible in the background. Timestamp, 2:47 p.m. on a Wednesday. The day she told me she was having lunch with her sister. Linda and Derek in what looked like an office. Papers spread on a desk. He had his arm around her waist. She was leaning into him, looking at something on a laptop screen. She looked proud, happy. I thought I might be sick right there in the Panera. The last section nearly killed me. Troy had recovered text messages. I don't know how. Didn't ask, didn't want to know. Probably paid someone. Probably illegal. Didn't care. But there they were. Screenshots. Dozens of them. Derek, can't wait to see you tomorrow. Bring the yellow scarf. You know what it does to me. Linda, will do. Told Rich I'm going to yoga. He never questions it anymore. Derek, how much longer do we have to wait? Linda, not much longer. He's 68. His father died at 71. We just have to be patient. Derek, patience isn't my strong suit, but you're worth waiting for. Linda, once he's gone, everything will be easier. The house is paid off. Life insurance is $500K. We can finally live. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the pages. I flipped forward. More messages. Linda, he actually asked about the withdrawals yesterday. Had to play dumb. Derek, careful. We can't let the Walking Dead catch on before we're ready. Linda, LOL Walking Dead. That's perfect. That's exactly what he is. Just existing. Waiting to die. Derek, well, he better hurry up. Finn's needs another injection and I'm tapped out. Linda, I'll handle it. He trusts me. He always has. There were more. Weeks of messages. Plans to wait me out. Jokes about my age, my health, my obliviousness. Derek called me the Walking Dead in at least 6 different messages. Linda laughed, sent heart emojis, made plans for their future, the one that started after I was gone. I set the pages down carefully, precisely, like if I moved too fast I'd shatter into 1,000 pieces. Troy was watching me. You okay? No. You need a minute? I shook my head. I need to know one more thing. What's that? This business, Finn's Gourmet Revolution. Is it real, or is this just a con? Troy pulled out his phone, scrolled, showed me. It's real. He's got permits filed, 6 food trucks on order, a commissary kitchen lease in Dublin. He's actually trying to make this work. Your wife isn't just funding an affair. She's funding his dream. My wife, funding his dream. with my retirement. I stood up. The Panera spun slightly. Mr. Walsh, thank you, Troy. Send me your final invoice. There's one more thing, he said quietly. I asked around about Maddox. Guy's got a reputation. Serial entrepreneur, yeah, but also serial romancer. He targets older women with money. Divorced, widowed, lonely. Makes them feel young again. Bleeds them dry. Then moves on. So Linda's just another mark. Probably. I laughed. Couldn't help it. This bitter, awful sound that made a woman at the next table look over. Linda, my Linda, who'd stood beside me through my father's death, through our son's cancer scare, through 45 years of ordinary life, was just another lonely woman with access to money. And Derek was just another con man with a silver tongue and an expensive watch. And I was the walking dead. I walked to my car in the Kroger parking lot next door, sat in the driver's seat, stared at the steering wheel, then I threw up. Right there, passenger side floor mat. Couldn't stop myself. 45 years, 2 kids, Sarah and Michael, both grown now with families of their own, a granddaughter who called me Poppy, countless dinners, arguments about money and the kids and what to do on weekends, making up, making love, making a life, and she was waiting for me to die, counting on it, funding her future with my past. I sat there for an hour, maybe more. People walked past with shopping carts. Life continued, and slowly something shifted inside me. The grief was still there, the betrayal, the absolute devastation. But underneath it, something else was growing, something cold and clear and focused. I wasn't dead yet, and I'd spent 43 years as an accountant. I knew money. I knew businesses. I knew exactly how to find every weakness, every vulnerability, every point of failure. Derek wanted to be an entrepreneur, wanted to build his revolutionary farm-to-street dining experience with my wife's money. With my money? Fine. Let him build it. I pulled out my phone, called a number I hadn't dialed in 3 years. Freya Chen, an old colleague who'd left accounting to become a venture capitalist. Sharp as hell, ruthless when she needed to be. Richard Walsh, she answered. This is a surprise. Freya, I need your help with something. I'm listening. How? I asked carefully. Do you destroy a business from the inside? There was a long pause. That's a hell of a question, Rich. You want to tell me why you're asking? So I did. And when I finished, Freya was quiet for a moment. Then she said something I'll never forget. Rich, I've known you for 20 years. You're the most honest man I've ever met. So, if you're asking me this, someone hurt you bad. They did. Then let's hurt them back. I smiled. First time in 8 days. Tell me where to start. The Columbus Small Business Startup Showcase happened on the 3rd Saturday of every month at the convention center downtown. I'd driven past it 100 times, never paid attention. Now, it was the most important place in my world. Freya had done her homework. Finn's Gourmet Revolution will be there, she told me over the phone. Derek's desperate for investors. He's already burned through Linda's money faster than expected. Permits cost more than he budgeted. The trucks had mechanical issues. His commissary kitchen lease tripled. He needs cash, and he needs it now. Good, I'd said. Desperate men make mistakes. I arrived at 10 a.m. The showcase floor was exactly what you'd expect. Folding tables with poster board displays, entrepreneurs in ill-fitting suits pitching dreams to skeptical strangers, artisan soap, app ideas, a woman selling kombucha she brewed in her garage, and there, in the back corner, was Finn's Gourmet Revolution. The booth was actually impressive. Professional banners with gorgeous food photography, a sleek tablecloth, samples of signature sandwiches on small paper plates. And Derek, wearing a blazer that probably cost more than my monthly grocery bill, holding court with 3 middle-aged women who looked charmed. I hung back and watched. He was good, I'll give him that. Charismatic. The way he smiled, the way he touched people's arms when he laughed, the way he made every person feel like they were the only one in the room. I could see why Linda fell for it. The branding was Linda's work. I recognized her aesthetic immediately. The color palette, yellow accents, clean whites, that modern farmhouse look she'd been obsessing over on Pinterest. She'd always had good taste. She'd just never had the money to indulge it. Until she stole mine. I waited until his crowd dispersed, then approached. "Impressive setup," I said, picking up one of his brochures. Derek's face lit up with that practiced enthusiasm. "Thank you. Are you a foodie? An investor? Both?" "Potentially both." I extended my hand. "Richard Morrison." I'd practiced saying it in the mirror for 3 days. My mother's maiden name. Morrison. It came out smooth, natural. Derek shook my hand with that firm grip guys like him probably practiced. "Derek Maddox, founder and CEO of Finn's Gourmet Revolution. Let me tell you what we're building here." And he launched into his pitch. Revolutionary farm-to-street dining. Locally sourced. Sustainable. Changing the food truck paradigm. Artisanal sandwiches with elevated profiles that would compete with brick-and-mortar restaurants at half the overhead. I listened, nodded, asked the right questions. "What's your startup capital so far?" "We've secured $340,000 in initial funding from a private investor," he said proudly. He had no idea he was talking about my retirement account. "But we're looking for strategic partners who can help us scale to 15 trucks by next year." "And your current burn rate?" He blinked. Most people at these showcases didn't know that term. "Excuse me? Your monthly expenses versus revenue. How long can you sustain operations before you need additional capital?" "Oh," he recovered quickly. "Well, we're in growth phase right now, so we're prioritizing market penetration over immediate profitability. But our projections show—" "How long, Derek?" He swallowed. 4 months, maybe 5 if we're careful." So Linda's $340,000 was already running out, even faster than Freya predicted. "I see." I picked up a sample sandwich. Took a bite. It was actually good. I hated that it was good. "What's your investor structure? Equity? Debt? Revenue share?" "We're flexible," he said quickly, desperately. "Depending on the amount and the partner's strategic value, we could discuss various arrangements." I took out my phone, opened my Notes app, and started typing. Let him watch me calculate. Let him see me thinking like someone with real money. "I'm interested," I said finally, "but I'd need to see your full business plan, your financial projections, current expenses, supplier contracts, everything. I don't invest blind." His eyes went wide. Of course. Can I get your contact information?" I gave him a Google Voice number I'd set up specifically for this. Richard Morrison's number, not Richard Walsh's. "I'll send everything over today," he said, practically vibrating with excitement. "How much are you thinking of investing, if I may ask?" I looked at him. Really looked at him. This man who called me the walking dead in text messages. This man who was sleeping with my wife in hotel rooms, planning a future on my grave. He had no idea who I was. Linda had been with me for 45 years, and she'd never even shown him a picture. I was so irrelevant to their story that I didn't exist beyond a bank account and an obituary waiting to happen. "I'm thinking," I said slowly, "somewhere in the range of $400,000. Maybe more if the numbers work." His face went slack. Then that smile exploded across it. "Mr. Morrison, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful partnership." I smiled back. "I think you're absolutely right." I didn't go home immediately. I sat in my car in the parking garage and called Freya. I met him. And? He has no idea who I am. She was quiet for a moment. "That's good, Rich. That's what we need. How did it feel?" "Like shaking hands with a ghost." I watched people walk past my car, normal people having normal Saturdays. He's everything Troy said. Charming, polished, completely full of shit. "Are you sure you want to do this? Once you invest, once you're inside, there's no going back. I thought about Linda's text messages, The Walking Dead. I thought about 45 years of marriage ending in a punchline. I've never been more sure of anything. Okay, Freya said. Then here's what happens next. He'll send you his business plan. It'll be garbage, but you'll pretend it's brilliant. You'll have questions, lots of them. Smart questions that make you seem like a sophisticated investor. I'll help you craft them. Then you'll make your move. Which is, you invest the $400,000. Not all at once in tranches tied to milestones. But here's the key. You demand oversight, board seat, monthly financial reviews, access to all accounts and contracts. You tell him it's standard for investments this size, and he'll agree because he's desperate. And then? Then we find every single weakness in his operation, every corner he's cut, every regulation he's skirted, every promise he can't keep, and we document everything. Won't he get suspicious? Freya laughed. Rich, guys like Derek think they're the smartest person in every room. He'll see your questions as a rich old guy being cautious with his money. He'll never suspect you're building a case against him. That night, I couldn't tell you what I ate for dinner or what was on TV. I just remember sitting in my office while Linda watched some home renovation show in the living room, waiting for Derek's email. It came at 9:47 p.m. Subject, Finn's Gourmet Revolution, investment opportunity for Richard Morrison. I opened it with hands that didn't shake anymore. The business plan was attached. 47 pages of buzzwords, optimistic projections, and stolen food photography from Pinterest. I recognized 3 of the images. Linda had them saved on her tablet. I read every word, and as I read, I started making notes. Not about what was wrong, that would come later. Notes about what I'd need to control, what I'd need access to, what leverage points existed. At 11:30 p.m., Linda knocked on my office door. Are you coming to bed? In a bit, just finishing something up. She sighed. You work too much, Rich. You're retired. You're supposed to relax. Old habits, I said without turning around. She left. I heard her footsteps fade down the hallway. I looked at Derek's email again. At his signature, Derek Maddox, founder and CEO, Finn's Gourmet Revolution. Revolutionizing street food, one meal at a time. No, I said quietly to my empty office. Revolutionizing your life, one decision at a time. I started typing my response. Dear Derek, thank you for the comprehensive business plan. I'm impressed with your vision and market positioning. I do have several questions before we proceed. 23 questions. Each one carefully crafted with Freya's help to sound reasonable, but to probe every vulnerability. I hit send at midnight. By 8 a.m. the next morning, Derek had responded to every single question. Eager, grateful, completely oblivious. 2 weeks later, I sat in a coffee shop downtown, not Maddox and Reed's, never there, and signed the investment papers. Richard Morrison was now the largest investor in Finn's Gourmet Revolution. Derek shook my hand like I'd just saved his life. He had no idea I was planning to end it. If you're enjoying this story, hit that subscribe button right now. It's free, it takes 1 second, and it helps this channel grow so I can keep bringing you more unbelievable stories just like this one. Don't miss the next twist. Subscribe. The first board meeting happened in a rented conference room at a WeWork space in the short north. Derek had wanted to meet at his commissary kitchen, but I'd insisted on neutral territory. Professional. Appropriate for a $400,000 investment. It was just the 3 of us. Derek, me, and Freya, who I'd introduced as my investment consultant and portfolio analyst. Derek had been thrilled to have her expertise. He had no idea she was there to help me dissect his entire operation. So, Derek began, pulling out his laptop with a flourish. Let me walk you through where we are and where we're headed. I opened my leather portfolio, the expensive one I'd bought specifically for this role, and clicked my pen, the picture of an attentive investor. For the next 2 hours, Derek talked. And I listened, really listened. He showed us the 6 food trucks. Only 4 were actually operational, but he glossed over that. He showed us the commissary kitchen lease, the supplier contracts, the permit applications still pending with the city. Every time he spoke, I took notes. Not the friendly, "Isn't this exciting?" kind. The detailed, uncomfortable kind. The kind that made him shift in his seat. "What's your average food cost percentage?" I asked during a pause. Around 35%? I wrote that down. Standard industry was 28 to 32%. He was bleeding money on ingredients. "And your labor costs?" "We're running lean, maybe 40% of revenue." I didn't look up from my notes, but my pen paused. 40% was insane. Sustainable restaurants ran at 25 to 30%. Freya jumped in. "Derek, that seems high for a food truck operation. Are you accounting for prep time separately from service time?" "Well, no. I mean, the guys do both. It's more efficient." "It's more expensive," she said pleasantly. "You're paying service wages for prep work. That's a significant margin leak." I watched Derek's face. He didn't like being corrected, but he needed our money too badly to argue. "I'll look into that," he said tightly. We went through everything. His POS system, outdated and glitchy. His inventory management, non-existent, just eyeballing it. His maintenance budget for the trucks, laughably inadequate. By the end of the meeting, I had 17 pages of notes, 17 pages of problems. "This has been incredibly valuable," Derek said as we wrapped up. "I really appreciate the detailed review." "That's what partners do," I said, shaking his hand. "We'll meet again in 2 weeks. I'd like to see supplier invoices and payroll records before then." His smile tightened. "Of course." That night, Freya and I met at a bar near her office in Dublin. Somewhere Linda would never go. Somewhere I could breathe. "He's sloppy," Freya said, stirring her martini. "Worse than I expected. Rich, this business is held together with duct tape and optimism." "What did you find?" She pulled out her tablet. "The supplier contracts are month to month with no volume discounts. He's paying premium prices for everything. His permits, 3 of them are expired, he just hasn't been caught yet. The trucks, 2 have failed inspections he hasn't resolved. And the best part? What? He's commingling funds. Business expenses and personal expenses are running through the same accounts. I saw charges for a hotel in Cabo last month, a jewelry purchase, restaurants nowhere near any of his truck locations. Linda's hotels, Linda's jewelry, their vacation. Can we prove it? With bank statements and receipts? Absolutely. That's textbook fraud, Rich. Investors give you money for specific business purposes. You don't get to take your girlfriend on vacation with it." "She's not his girlfriend," I said quietly. "She's his investor's wife. He's stealing from me twice." Freya reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Then let's make sure he pays for it twice." Over the next month, I became Derek's shadow. Weekly board meetings, site visits to the commissary kitchen and the truck locations, financial reviews where I went through every expense line by line. At first, Derek tolerated it. Then he started getting annoyed. "Richard, I appreciate your diligence, but I need some autonomy to run the day-to-day operations." "Of course," I said pleasantly. "But you understand, with an investment this size, I need to ensure fiscal responsibility. It's nothing personal." What he didn't know was that every piece of information I gathered was being documented, organized, and analyzed by Freya. We were building a map of his entire operation, every weak point, every vulnerability, every thread we could pull to unravel everything. I also started reaching out to his suppliers, friendly calls, just an investor wanting to understand the supply chain, and every single one had complaints. Maddox is 3 weeks behind on payments. He keeps trying to negotiate lower prices after we've already delivered. We're about to cut him off if he doesn't catch up. I took detailed notes of every conversation. Then I found Cassandra Burke. Troy had mentioned her in his original report, Derek's second ex-wife. I found her on LinkedIn, restaurant manager at Sage Bistro in Cincinnati. I drove down on a Tuesday afternoon when Linda thought I was at a doctor's appointment. Cassandra was my age, maybe a year or two younger. Sharp eyes, the kind of person who'd been burned and learned from it. "You said on the phone you're an investor in Derek's business," she said, stirring her coffee. We were at a Starbucks near her restaurant. "I am, and I'm starting to think that was a mistake." She laughed, bitter and knowing. "Let me guess. He charmed you, showed you projections that made you feel like you were getting in on the ground floor of something huge, made you feel special. Something like that. That's Derek's gift. He makes people believe." She looked out the window. "I believed for 4 years. Married him when I was 49, divorced him at 53. He went through my savings, my mother's inheritance, even borrowed against my restaurant. When I finally wised up and filed for divorce, he fought me for everything. I got almost nothing." "I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry. Be smart." She turned back to me. "Why are you really here, Mr. Morrison?" I made a decision. "Because I want to make sure he doesn't do to anyone else what he did to you, and I need your help." She studied me for a long moment. "What kind of help?" "Documentation, records of his financial history, anything you kept from the divorce, patterns of behavior. I'm building a case. A legal case? Eventually. For now, I just need ammunition." Cassandra smiled then. Really smiled. "I have boxes of ammunition, financial records, emails, text messages where he admitted to things his lawyer told him to deny. I kept everything because I knew someday someone would need it. Would you share it with me?" She pulled out her phone. "I'll do you one better. I'll testify if you need me to. I've wanted to take that son of a bitch down for years. I just didn't have the resources to do it alone." We exchanged information. By the time I left Cincinnati, I had 4 years' worth of Derek's financial crimes documented and ready to use. At home, Linda was getting anxious. "You seem distracted lately," she said one evening. We were having dinner, chicken she'd made, though she barely touched hers. "Is everything okay?" "Everything's fine." "Are you seeing someone?" I nearly choked on my water. "What?" "You're gone more. Secretive about where you've been. I just wondered—" The audacity. The absolute audacity of her asking me that question. "No, Linda, I'm not seeing anyone. I've been helping a friend with some financial consulting. That's all." She relaxed. "Oh. Well, that's good. I'd hate to think." She trailed off, then laughed. "Never mind. That's silly. You'd never do something like that." "No," I said, looking directly at her. "I wouldn't." She smiled and went back to her dinner, completely oblivious. That night, Derek texted her, "Morrison's getting annoying. Guy won't stop asking questions, but he's talking about another $200K next quarter, so I guess I can deal with it." Linda's response, "Just keep him happy. We need that money. Not long now." Troy had tapped her phone at my request. Every message went straight to my encrypted email. I read them lying in bed next to her, my phone's brightness turned all the way down. Not long now. She was right about that. Just not the way she thought. The grand opening of Finn's Gourmet Revolution was scheduled for the first Saturday in November. Derek had been planning it for months, longer than he'd been planning anything else about the actual business. He'd rented space at Goodale Park, hired a local band, arranged for craft beer vendors and a wine table. 6 food trucks would be on site, each one serving Derek's revolutionary menu. There would be speeches, samples, local food bloggers, even a minor Columbus celebrity, some guy from a home renovation show. It was going to cost $35,000. Money he didn't have. Money he'd asked me for. "Richard, this event is crucial for brand awareness," Derek had pitched during our last board meeting. "We need to make a splash, show Columbus what Finn's is all about. The ROI will be immediate. We're talking social media buzz, press coverage, potential corporate catering contracts." I'd let him squirm for a few days before agreeing, but with conditions. "I'll fund the event," I'd said, but I want full financial transparency moving forward. Every expense, every invoice, every payroll record, and I want to be there, see the operation in action. He'd agreed. Of course he had. The day of the event was perfect. Crisp fall weather, clear skies, the kind of Saturday that makes people want to be outside. By 2 p.m., Goodale Park was packed. Families, young professionals, food enthusiasts. Derek had actually pulled together a decent crowd. I arrived at 2:30, wearing khakis and a polo shirt. Richard Morrison, the friendly investor. I brought Blair, my son-in-law, Sarah's husband, who I'd finally told part of the truth to. Not the whole truth, not about Linda yet, just that I was helping investigate a potentially fraudulent business investment. Blair's a tax attorney, sharp, detail-oriented, and fiercely loyal to our family. "Dad," he said, he called me Dad, had for 15 years. "What exactly am I looking for?" "Anything that doesn't add up. Health code issues, unlicensed staff, financial irregularities in how he's running things. You're here as my legal consultant. Just observe." We walked through the crowd. The food trucks were impressive, I had to admit, professionally wrapped with the Finn's branding. Linda's aesthetic everywhere. Those yellow accents, the clean, modern design. And then I saw her. Linda was there trying to blend into the background, but I knew her body language after 45 years. She was wearing black pants and a yellow cardigan, of course yellow, and she was hovering near the main truck watching Derek work the crowd. My chest tightened. Blair noticed. "Dad, you okay?" "Fine," I said. "Let's keep moving." Derek was in his element, shaking hands, taking photos, giving interviews to a local food blogger. He saw me and waved, gesturing me over. "Richard, you made it. Let me introduce you around." For the next 20 minutes, I played my part, smiled, talked about revolutionary concepts and disruptive innovation. Met Derek's small staff, most of them looked exhausted and underpaid. Then Derek gave a speech. He stood on a small platform near the main truck, microphone in hand, and addressed the crowd. "Thank you all for coming. 5 years ago, I had a dream, to revolutionize how we think about street food." I watched Linda watch him, the pride on her face, the way she clasped her hands together like she was watching her child in a school play. And I couldn't have done this without my amazing investors, particularly Mr. Richard Morrison, who believed in the vision when others didn't. People clapped. Derek gestured to me. I waved, playing the humble benefactor. "Here's to Finn's gourmet revolution." Derek raised his beer. "The future of Columbus food?" The crowd cheered. I smiled, and I thought about the phone call I'd made yesterday to the Franklin County Health Department. Anonymous tip. Detailed concerns about permit violations, improper food storage temperatures, expired staff certifications. The inspector had told me they'd follow up within 48 hours. At 4 p.m., as the party hit its peak, I saw Linda and Derek steal a moment behind the trucks. I was standing near the beer garden, talking to Blair about nothing in particular, when I spotted them. They thought they were hidden, but I had a clear sight line. She kissed him. Quick, furtive, his hand on her waist. Then she pulled back, laughing at something he said. He touched her face. 45 years of marriage. And she was kissing another man at a party I'd funded. My phone buzzed. A text from Troy. "Got photos. Crystal clear." "Want me to send them now?" "Send them," I typed back. 3 seconds later, the photos arrived. Linda and Derek, that kiss, different angles, evidence, documentation, another piece of the case. Blair was saying something about corporate tax structures, but I wasn't listening. I was watching my wife smile at the man who called me the Walking Dead. "Dad," Blair touched my arm. "Seriously, are you okay? You look—" "I'm fine." I forced myself to focus. Just thinking about something. "What were you saying about tax structures?" But I wasn't fine. I was standing at a party I'd paid for, watching my wife celebrate a business I was going to destroy, and feeling nothing but cold, calculated satisfaction. Because on Monday morning, the health department would arrive, and Derek's revolutionary dream would start its collapse, right on schedule. The health inspector arrived at 9:15 a.m. on Monday. I wasn't there, I made sure of that, but Troy was, documenting everything from across the street. The photos he sent me throughout the morning told the whole story. The inspector moving from truck to truck, the staff looking panicked, Derek arriving at 9:47, still wearing Saturday's confidence, then Derek's face changing as the inspector showed him violations. By noon, all 6 trucks were shut down pending corrections. The list of violations was impressive. Improper food storage temperatures in 3 trucks, expired health certifications for 2 staff members, inadequate hand-washing stations, missing permits for 2 of the trucks, and, the big one, evidence of rodent activity in the commissary kitchen. That last one was the killer. Rodent activity meant a full inspection of the entire operation. It meant deep cleaning, pest control documentation, re-inspection fees. It meant weeks of closure, maybe months. It meant no revenue. Derek called me at 1:30 p.m., his voice barely controlled panic. "Richard, we've had a situation. The health department came by and—" "I heard," I said calmly. "I got a call from the park management. This is serious, Derek." "It's a misunderstanding. A competitor must have filed a false complaint. We're completely up to code." "Are you?" I let the question hang. "Because I'm looking at the violation report right now." I wasn't, but he didn't know that. "And it lists pretty specific issues." Silence on his end. "Derek, I need you to be honest with me. As your largest investor, I need to know, were you cutting corners?" "No. I mean, some of the certifications might have been a few days expired, but that's just bureaucracy. The actual operations are solid." "Few days or few weeks?" "Richard." "How long, Derek?" 6 weeks, maybe 2 months for some." I closed my eyes, let the silence stretch. Then, "We need to meet, today. Bring every permit, every certification, every inspection record. I need to see everything." "I can explain. Today, Derek, or I pull my funding." He showed up at the WeWork at 4 p.m. looking like he'd aged 5 years since Saturday. Freya was already there, her laptop open, her face professionally neutral. The next 3 hours were brutal. Derek tried to spin it, tried to make excuses, but every document he brought just made things worse. Expired permits he forgot to renew. Staff certifications he meant to update. Inspection reports from 3 months ago flagging issues he planned to address. "Derek," Freya said, her voice ice cold, "this isn't oversight. This is negligence. You've been operating 6 trucks with expired permits and uncertified staff for months. Do you understand the liability exposure?" "It's just paperwork." "It's the law," I said quietly, "and you violated it repeatedly. With my money." His face went red. "I've been focused on growth, on building the brand. These administrative details are the difference between a business and a lawsuit waiting to happen." I opened my own folder, the one I'd been building for months. "Let's talk about other details you've overlooked." I went through it, item by item. The suppliers he owed money to, the commingled business and personal expenses, the payroll taxes that were 2 months behind, the equipment loans he was defaulting on, every weakness Freya and I had found, laid out in spreadsheets and documentation. "How did you—" Derek started, then stopped. "I'm an investor, Derek. Due diligence is what I do." I looked at him. "The question is, what are we going to do about this?" Over the next 2 weeks, things accelerated. The closure made local news. Not big news, just a small article on Columbus Business First's website. Finn's Gourmet Revolution temporarily closed following health violations. But it was enough. Suppliers started demanding immediate payment. The craft beer vendor from the launch party filed a complaint. Derek had never paid them. Staff started quitting. citing missed paychecks, and then Cassandra Burke filed her lawsuit. I'd been in touch with her throughout, feeding her information, helping her build a case for unpaid alimony and financial fraud related to their divorce. She'd been waiting for the right moment. The health violations were that moment. Her lawsuit hit the local court system on a Wednesday. By Thursday, Derek was dealing with a subpoena for his financial records. He called me, frantic. "Richard, I don't know what's happening. It's like everything's falling apart at once." "When it rains, it pours," I said sympathetically. "But Derek, we can get through this. You just need to be smart." "How?" "First, get those permits corrected, immediately. Second, settle your supplier debts. Third, address the Cassandra situation." "I can't afford all that. The closure cost me 2 weeks of revenue, and then you need a bridge loan, something to get you through until you can reopen. The bank won't touch me, not with the lawsuit and the violations." I let him dangle, let him feel the desperation. "I might be able to help," I said finally, "but it won't be cheap." We met on a Friday afternoon, just Derek and me this time. No Freya, I didn't need her for this part. "I can offer you $150,000, I said. "Bridge loan, 6-month term, but the interest rate will be 18% and I'll need the business as collateral." His face went pale. 18%? That's what high-risk loans cost, Derek. You're in default with multiple suppliers, you have a lawsuit pending, and your trucks are shut down. I'm taking a significant risk here. "I can't agree to that." I started packing my papers. "Then I wish you the best of luck finding alternative financing." "Wait." His voice cracked. "Wait, I need more time to think. You have until Monday. After that, I'm reallocating that capital elsewhere." I stood to leave. "Richard." He looked up at me, and for the first time, I saw real fear in his eyes. "This business is everything to me." "I know," I said, and I walked out. At home, Linda was unraveling. She snapped at me over dinner. Her phone rang constantly. Derek, I assumed, though she always left the room to answer. On Saturday night, after 3 glasses of wine, she looked at me from across the living room and asked, "Do you think I'm a good person, Rich?" I lowered the volume on the TV. "What? Do you think I'm good? That I've lived a good life?" I studied her. She looked older than I remembered. Tired. The yellow cardigan from the party was draped over the couch. She'd been wearing it a lot lately. "I think," I said slowly, "that you're exactly who you've chosen to be." She stared at me like I'd slapped her. "What does that mean?" "It means we all make choices, every day, and those choices define us." "That's not an answer." "Yes," I said, turning back to the TV. "It is." She opened her mouth to say something else, then closed it. She went to bed without another word. I stayed up until midnight, reviewing the final pieces of my plan. On Monday, Derek would sign the loan papers. He had no choice, and once he did, I'd own majority control of Finn's gourmet revolution. Then the real destruction would begin. Derek signed the papers on Monday at 2 p.m. 18% interest, 6-month term, the business as collateral, and buried in the fine print that his desperation made him skim over, a clause giving me majority control if he defaulted on any payment. He didn't read it carefully. He just signed. "Thank you, Richard," he said, shaking my hand. His palm was sweaty. "You're saving my life here." "That's what partners do," I replied. I deposited the signed documents with my attorney that same afternoon. Then I went home and waited, because the hardest part was still coming. December 14th, a Tuesday, cold and gray outside. I'd been planning this day for weeks, rehearsing what I'd say, how I'd say it. Part of me wanted to rage, to scream, to make her feel even a fraction of what I'd felt, but that wasn't who I was. I was an accountant. I dealt in facts, numbers, evidence, so that's what I'd give her. Linda came home from her book club at 4:30. I was sitting at the kitchen table, a folder in front of me. Just sitting, waiting. "Rich, what are you doing in here in the dark?" I turned on the overhead light. She blinked at the sudden brightness. "Sit down, Linda." Something in my voice made her freeze. "What's wrong?" "Sit down." She sat across from me, her purse still on her shoulder. Her hand crept toward her phone. I opened the folder. Bank statements. 6 months of them. Every withdrawal highlighted in yellow. The color felt appropriate. "Tell me about Derek," I said quietly. The color drained from her face. Literally, I watched it happen. From normal to pale to almost gray in the span of 3 seconds. "I don't know what you're—" I laid out the first photograph. Linda and Derek at Maddox and Reed's coffee house, her hand in his across the table. She stopped talking. I laid out another. The hotel parking lot. The Marriott. Another. The kiss behind the food trucks at the launch party. Another. Another. "Rich." "Don't." My voice was still quiet. Calm. "Don't lie to me. Not now. Not after everything." She opened her mouth, closed it. Her eyes were filling with tears, but I couldn't tell if they were real or strategic. "How long have you known?" she whispered. "Long enough." I pulled out the printed text messages. "These are interesting. Want to read them? Or should I read them to you? You had me followed. You violated my privacy. I protected my assets." I slid the messages across the table. "The Walking Dead. That's what he calls me. And you laughed. You sent heart emojis." She looked at the messages, and something broke in her face. Real emotion now. Shame, maybe. Or just fear at being caught. "It wasn't supposed to be like this," she said. "I didn't mean for— You stole $340,000 from our retirement accounts." I kept my voice level, factual. "You transferred our money I worked 43 years to earn, to fund your boyfriend's failing business. He's not my boyfriend." "What is he then, Linda? What do you call a man you're sleeping with in hotels? A man you kiss? A man you're planning a future with after I'm dead?" Her face crumpled. "Oh, God." "Just waiting for the old man to die," I quoted. "That was you. His father died at 71. We just have to be patient. Also, you. Rich, please." "How long?" I asked. "How long have you been waiting for me to die?" "It wasn't like that. I got confused. Derek made me feel young, alive. You and we've been going through the motions for years. You know we have." "So you decided to steal from me?" "I was going to pay it back. The business was going to be successful, and I'd put the money back before you even noticed. The business is failing, Linda. It's been failing from day one. Derek is a con artist who's been through 2 wives and 3 businesses, and you're just his latest mark." She flinched like I'd hit her. "That's not true. He loves me. He loves your money. My money." I pulled out another document. "This is a forensic accounting of every dollar you transferred. Where it went, when, how you moved it through 3 different accounts to try to hide the trail. You know what this is called in Ohio?" She was crying now. Real tears. "Financial exploitation of the elderly. Wire fraud. Depending on how the prosecutor wants to charge it, you're looking at serious time, Linda. This isn't a mistake. This is a felony." "You wouldn't?" "Why wouldn't I?" I leaned forward. "You stole from me. You betrayed me. You were literally waiting for me to die. Give me one reason why I shouldn't file charges." She was sobbing now, her hands over her face. "Because I'm your wife. Because we have children together. Because 45 years has to mean something." "It meant something," I said. "To me. Apparently not to you." I slid 2 documents across the table. "These are divorce papers. Sign them, and you walk away with nothing. No house, no retirement, no alimony, nothing. You get your personal belongings and whatever you can fit in your car. Rich, please. Or I file criminal charges. Let the prosecutor decide what you deserve. Either way, we're done. You choose how public it gets." She stared at the papers like they were a death sentence. Maybe they were. "What about Derek?" she asked, her voice small. "What about him? Is he going to be okay?" I almost laughed. Almost. After everything, after being caught, after facing consequences, she was still worried about Derek. "Derek," I said carefully, "is about to lose everything. His business, his freedom, everything. Because I own him now, Linda. I'm his largest investor. I control his company, and I'm going to make sure he pays for what he did." Her eyes widened. "You're Richard Morrison." "I am." "Oh my God. You invested in Derek's business?" $400,000. More than you stole. I became his partner, his trusted advisor. I had access to everything." I smiled, but it wasn't kind. He shook my hand at the launch party. Thanked me for believing in his vision. He had no idea he was shaking hands with the husband of the woman he was sleeping with. "You never even showed him a picture of me." She looked like she might be sick. "How could you do this?" "How could I?" I stood up. "How could you steal from me? How could you betray 45 years of marriage? How could you laugh about me dying?" "I didn't mean it." "Sign the papers, Linda." "And if I don't?" "Then I call the prosecutor's office. I have a friend there. He's expecting my call either way. I just need to tell him whether we're doing this quietly or publicly." She picked up the pen with shaking hands. "I loved you," she whispered. "I did. I got lost." "You made a choice," I said. "Lots of them. Every time you moved money, every time you met Derek, every time you lied to my face. Those were choices." She signed the papers. It took her 10 minutes and she cried through all of it, but she signed. I took the documents and stood to leave. "Where will I go?" she asked. "I don't care." "Rich." "Derek's apartment is on Maple Street," I said. "Number 412. His lease is paid through March. After that?" I shrugged. Not my problem anymore. I walked toward the door of the kitchen. She called after me one more time. "Derek will take care of me. He loves me." I stopped, turned back. "Derek," I said quietly, "is about to lose everything. His business is collateral on a loan he can't repay. He's got lawsuits piling up. His ex-wife is coming for him. The health department is watching him. And I own 51% of his company as of Monday." "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to destroy him," I said, "the same way he tried to destroy me. And you're going to watch." I left her sitting at the kitchen table surrounded by the evidence of her betrayal, crying into her hands. I packed a bag and stayed at a hotel that night. For the first time in months, I slept. The board meeting was scheduled for December 20th. Derek had been avoiding me since I'd deposited the loan check. Too busy fixing operations, he claimed. In reality, Troy's surveillance showed him meeting with lawyers, trying to figure out how to save his sinking ship. He had no idea the ship was already underwater. Freya, Derek, and I met in the same WeWork conference room where this had all started. But this time, there was someone else. Leila Hartman, my attorney. Derek's face fell when he saw her. "What's she doing here?" "Ms. Hartman is here to present the findings of an independent audit," I said calmly. "Standard procedure for investments of this size. Please, sit down." He sat. He looked terrible. Unshaven, his expensive blazer wrinkled, dark circles under his eyes. Freya opened her laptop. "Derek, we've completed a comprehensive review of Finn's Gourmet Revolution's finances, operations, and legal compliance. What we found is concerning." She pulled up the first slide. A summary of violations, health code breaches, expired permits, unpaid supplier invoices, payroll tax delinquency. "None of this is news to you," Freya continued. "But what is news is this. We've documented systematic commingling of business and personal funds." The next slide showed transactions. Hotel charges, jewelry purchases, restaurant bills, a weekend trip to Cabo. Derek's face went white. Those were business development expenses. A couple's massage in Cabo? I asked quietly. Jewelry from Tiffany's? Hotel stays in Columbus when you live 20 minutes from the commissary kitchen. Richard, I can explain. Then explain it to them. Lila slid a document across the table. This is a notice of breach of fiduciary duty. You represented to Mr. Morrison, and to me, as his legal counsel, that investment funds would be used exclusively for business operations. Instead, you used them for personal expenses. That's not... We have bank statements, Derek, credit card receipts, documentation of every expense. Would you like to review them? He looked at the papers like they were a snake about to strike. What do you want? He asked finally. Accountability, I said. You took money under false pretenses. You lied about your financial situation. You operated with expired permits and put everyone at risk. This isn't a mistake, Derek. This is fraud. I'll pay it back. With what money? Freya asked. You're 2 months behind on supplier payments. Your trucks are still shut down. You're in default on your equipment loans. The only money you have left is the bridge loan Richard gave you, and you've already spent half of it on legal fees. Derek slumped in his chair. Lila pulled out another document. As majority stakeholder, which Mr. Morrison became when you signed the loan agreement and subsequently defaulted on the first payment due last week, he has the authority to make the following motions. I didn't default. You missed the payment deadline by 3 days, Lila said. Per the terms of your agreement, that constitutes default. Mr. Morrison is now the majority owner of Finn's Gourmet Revolution. The room went silent. No, Derek whispered. No, I read that contract. Did you? I asked. Or did you skim it because you were desperate? He grabbed the loan documents from his bag, frantically flipping pages. I watched him find the clause, watched his face as he realized what he'd signed. You did this on purpose, he said. You set me up. I invested in your business, I replied. You failed to perform. You violated the terms of our agreement. I'm simply exercising my legal rights as majority owner. Why? He asked. Why go through all this? If you wanted to destroy me, why not just... Because I wanted you to know what it feels like, I said quietly. To build something, to believe in something, to trust someone, and then watch them take it away. His face changed. Understanding dawned. You're not Richard Morrison. No. Who are you? Richard Walsh, I said, Linda's husband. The color drained from his face. He looked like he might pass out. Oh, God. You called me the Walking Dead, I continued. You laughed about waiting for me to die. You stole my retirement money through my wife. You destroyed 45 years of marriage. Did you really think there wouldn't be consequences? Derek's hands were shaking. She said you didn't care, that you were just existing, that the marriage was dead anyway. The marriage was fine until you came along. I stood up. Now, as majority owner, I'm calling for a vote. I move to dissolve Finn's Gourmet Revolution, liquidate all assets, and pursue legal action against Derek Maddox for breach of fiduciary duty and fraud. I second, Freya said. All in favor? Lila asked. My hand went up. Freya's hand went up. Motion passes, Lila said. Mr. Maddox, you'll receive formal notification within 48 hours. Derek just sat there, broken, empty. I'd expected to feel satisfaction, vindication, something. Instead, I just felt tired. For what it's worth, I said, gathering my papers, the business idea wasn't terrible. The execution was just you, and that was never going to work. I walked out. Freya and Lila followed. Behind us, I heard Derek start to cry. Over the next 3 weeks, everything fell apart exactly as planned. The business was liquidated. The trucks were sold at auction. The commissary kitchen lease was terminated. Suppliers were paid from the liquidation proceeds. I made sure of that. They hadn't done anything wrong. After legal fees and secured debts, I recovered $220,000 of the $340,000 Linda had stolen. Not everything, but something. Derek faced lawsuits from Cassandra, from 2 suppliers, and was under investigation by the IRS for payroll tax fraud. His apartment on Maple Street went into foreclosure. Linda, according to Sarah's occasional updates, had moved in with Derek, then moved out when he couldn't afford to keep her. She'd gone back east, living with her sister in Pennsylvania, working retail. She'd called me 3 times. I never answered. On New Year's Eve, Sarah came to visit. We sat on my porch. I'd kept the house in the divorce, drinking coffee as snow started to fall. "Mom asked me to talk to you," she said carefully. "Don't." "Dad, she's struggling. She's living in a 1-bedroom apartment working at a Target. She has nothing." "She has exactly what she chose," I said. "I didn't do this to her. She did this to herself." "I know. I'm not saying you should forgive her. I'm just saying, she's still my mother, and seeing her like this—" Sarah's voice cracked. "It's hard." I put my arm around my daughter. "I'm sorry you're caught in the middle. I truly am. But I can't help her, Sarah. I won't." "She said you destroyed her life." "No," I said quietly. "I destroyed the life she tried to steal from me. That's different." Sarah nodded. She understood, even if she didn't like it. "Are you happy?" she asked. "Is this what you wanted?" I thought about that question for a long time. "No," I said finally. "I'm not happy, but I'm not dead either, and that's something." Spring came to Ohio the way it always does. Slowly, reluctantly, with cold mornings and occasional snow even in April. I'd been living alone in the house for 4 months. It was strange at first, 45 years of sharing space, and suddenly there was no one to say good morning to, no one to make coffee for. But strange isn't always bad. Sarah and Michael visited regularly. My granddaughter Emily came over every Sunday. We'd make pancakes and watch cartoons. She never asked about Grandma Linda. I think Sarah had explained it in whatever way you explain these things to a 6-year-old. The money I'd recovered, $220,000, sat in my account for weeks while I decided what to do with it. It wasn't enough to retire on. The legal fees, the investigation costs, the divorce, all of it had eaten into what was left. I'd have to keep working longer than planned, keep doing books for small businesses, maybe take on a part-time job, but that wasn't what bothered me. What bothered me was that every time I looked at that money, I saw Derek's face when he realized who I was. I saw Linda crying at the kitchen table. I saw the wreckage I'd deliberately created. I'd won. I'd gotten justice. I'd made them pay. And I felt empty. On a Tuesday in late April, I drove to Cincinnati. Cassandra Burke had texted me a few times since everything fell apart, checking in, sharing updates on her lawsuit against Derek, just being kind. I asked if I could take her to coffee. She said yes. We met at a cafe near her restaurant. She looked good, more relaxed than the last time I'd seen her. Lighter. "How are you holding up?" she asked. "I'm here," I said. "That's about all I can say." She nodded. I know that feeling. After my divorce, I felt like I was just existing, going through motions. It took me 2 years to feel human again. "How did you do it?" "Therapy helped. Time helped. But mostly?" She stirred her coffee. I stopped waiting for closure, for him to apologize or acknowledge what he did. I realized closure is something you give yourself, not something someone gives you. "I got my closure," I said. "I destroyed his business. I divorced my wife. I exposed everything." "But you're not at peace." "No." Cassandra reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Revenge doesn't fix the hole they leave, Richard. It just proves you survived. But surviving isn't the same as healing. So what do I do?" "You start over," she said simply. "You figure out who Richard is now. Not Richard the husband, not Richard the victim, not Richard the avenger, just Richard." I thought about that conversation for days. Who was Richard now? Not the man who'd spent 45 years building a life with Linda. Not the man who'd methodically destroyed Derek's business. Not the man who'd hidden behind fake names and calculated revenge. Just me. I started small. I took the $220,000 and made decisions that felt right. $110,000 went into a trust for Emily's college education. Whatever else happened, my granddaughter would have opportunities. $50,000 I donated to the Ohio Alliance to End Elder Abuse. They did real work helping people like me, people whose trust had been exploited. If my money could help someone else avoid what I went through, that meant something. $60,000 I used to establish a scholarship fund at Columbus State Community College. For adult learners, people starting over, people who'd lost time and were trying to rebuild. The fund was anonymous. I didn't want recognition. I just wanted to help. When I told Sarah what I'd done, she cried, "Dad, that's beautiful. I'm so proud of you." "It's just money," I said. "No, it's not. It's you choosing to build something instead of destroy something. That's everything." In June, I started going to a coffee shop near my house. Not Maddox and Reed's. Never there. That place was bulldozed anyway. The building sold, turned into a boutique gym. This place was called Rise and Grind. Small, unpretentious, good coffee. I'd go 3 mornings a week, read the paper, do crosswords, just be. One Thursday, a woman sat at the table next to mine. She was around my age, maybe a bit younger, reading a book, drinking tea. We didn't talk, just existed in the same space. The next Thursday, she was there again. Same table, same book. She hadn't finished it yet. I smiled at her. She smiled back. "Good book?" I asked. "It's okay. Keeps me company." I know that feeling. Her name was Margaret. She was a widow. 3 years. Her husband had died of cancer, and she was trying to figure out what came next. "You?" she asked. "Divorced," I said. "Recently, still figuring things out." We talked for 20 minutes. Nothing deep. Just conversation. She told me about her grandkids. I told her about Emily. When I left, I felt lighter than I had in months. I don't know if I'll see Margaret again. Don't know if we'll become friends or more, or nothing at all. But that morning at Rise and Grind, sitting in the sunlight with my crossword and my coffee, I realized something. I'd spent 6 months destroying Linda and Derek. 6 months consumed by rage and calculation and revenge. And I'd won. I'd gotten everything I'd set out to get. But Linda was still hollow. Derek was still empty. And revenge hadn't filled me up. What filled me up was Emily's laugh, Sarah's hug, the thank you email from a scholarship recipient who said I'd given her hope, Margaret's smile across a coffee shop. The ledger never balances. Not really. I lost 45 years of marriage. I lost $120,000 I'll never recover. I lost the man I thought I was, the one who believed in forever and trust and growing old together. But I didn't lose myself. Not completely. I survived. And surviving, I'm learning, is its own kind of revenge. Not against them. Against the part of me that wanted to give up, to become bitter, to let their betrayal define the rest of my life. On a Sunday in July, I took Emily to the park. We flew a kite, a cheap thing from Target that barely stayed aloft. She laughed every time it dipped, ran after it when it crashed. "Poppy, you're not very good at this," she shouted. "No," I agreed, "but I'm trying." She hugged my leg. That's okay. Trying is good. Out of the mouths of 6-year-olds, I looked up at the sky. Blue. Clear. The kind of day that makes you glad to be alive. And for the first time since that Tuesday morning when I found the missing money, I felt something close to peace. Linda and Derek had taken a lot from me, but they hadn't taken this moment, this sunlight, this little girl who loved me. They hadn't taken my ability to start over, and that, I thought, might be the only revenge that actually matters. Later that week, I went back to Rise and Grind. Margaret was there, same table. I bought 2 coffees, walked over. "Mind if I join you?" She smiled. "I'd like that." We sat together in comfortable silence. She read her book. I did my crossword. And when I left a $20 tip on a $6 coffee for the waitress, a woman my age who looked like she was rebuilding her life too, Margaret noticed. "That's generous," she said. "We all need a little kindness," I replied. She squeezed my hand, and I walked out into the sunlight feeling like maybe, just maybe, Richard Walsh was going to be okay. Not because I'd destroyed my enemies, but because I'd survived them and learned to live again.